Okay, so we're back and we're doing World War One. We're going to do a overview of World War One from a world perspective, and then we'll go back to the role of America in World War One after we finish this lecture. So World War One is a pretty simple way to go about remembering what and how it starts. First of all, let's review what we had beforehand. You've got two sides. You've got the Allies, or the Triple Entente, which is going to be the major players in this, will be England, France, Italy on the western border, and we'll have Russia, Romania on the eastern border, and then we'll have the Slavic countries down along the Adriatic Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. On the Central Powers, you'll have Germany, Austria-Hungary, Turkey, and the Ottoman Empire. The guys that are sitting this one out, they're Spain, Switzerland, that will sit out both World War I and World War II, the Netherlands, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. Now those guys will get involved in World War II, but World War I, they're going to take this one off. So the easy way to remember World War I, as we mentioned, there are four main causes of World War I. And you can just go off the acronym. Main: militarism, alliance system, imperialism, and nationalism. Militarism. It's a development of a strong military as a tool for diplomacy. This is something that Teddy Roosevelt will do with the great White Navy when he takes our U.S. fleet and goes around the world, specifically over to Japan, and says, hey, we'd love to trade with you, Japan. Japan says, not so much. We then come back and say, with the Navy, we'd love to trade with you, Japan. Guess what Japan ends up deciding to do? William Kaiser, or excuse me, Kaiser Wilhelm, he's for Germany, and he sees the advantages and he sees what Great Britain has been able to attain with their Navy and their imperial power with their Navy. They're the greatest Navy in the world, and he wants to achieve that. So he's going to start building up his Navy as fast and as big as he can. This is going to be a challenge to Great Britain, and they're going to feel the threat, and they will respond. This will be much like us in the Cold War. As we build up our military, the Soviets will build up theirs. As they build up theirs, we build up ours. As they build nuclear weapons, we build nuclear weapons. They build bigger ones, we build bigger ones. This will inevitably bring people to a much more tense and competitive situation around the world, as this competition between Britain and Germany shipyards and Germany and France on the mainland of Europe. France will be feeling threatened, so they will develop a fortified position along their eastern front. And the rest of the European nations will follow suit. One military getting bigger, another one getting bigger. Eventually, when you get into a bar and everybody's flexing their muscle, the chances of a confrontation grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Next one, the alliance system. The idea was that, well, no one would ever want to take on the three biggest guys in the bar, meaning that if I have me by myself and I go into a place where there's 4 or 5 adversaries, the chances of me getting into a fight are pretty good. But if I have 3 or 4 of my buddies and someone tries to do something against me, the chances of that happening are relatively small. The problem with that mindset, as we'll see, is that once one guy throws into the party, one guy throws the sucker punch against the other team, all parties must be involved. This is going to play a part in the fact that you'll see Russia, who is aligned with the Serbian people, the Slavic people, and saying that they are a protectorate. Remember, that was one of our terms. They're going to feel like they're looking out for the well-being of the Slavic people, the Serbs, because they have a great many of those in Russia. And so they're going to tell Austria and Hungary that they're not really jacked about the fact that they have invaded and they have taken over parts of that region of Europe. They would like their own independence, the Slavic people will, the Serbians. And it will start when the Serbians will take a shot. A small little country with a very small group of people will take a shot at Austria-Hungary's Archduke. And then it'll be Germany declaring war on Russia, and Russia feeling the help from Great Britain and France, because those two will declare war on Germany, and then Austria and Hungary and the Ottoman Empire will get involved, and before you know, you've got all of Europe involved in a war. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So again, the alliance system is played. That's going to start the hostilities between one member of the alliance, whether it be the central or the allied, feeling threatened, and so all of its members will jump in. It will lead to a chain reaction. This is insane, but a 19-year-old, basically nobody, in Mr. Princeps, will start the destruction of between 20 and 40 million people when he kills the Archduke. The next one is imperialism. Now, imperialism, as we've been looking at this, is basically the simple idea of imperialism is you have something I want. You have a cookie, I want the cookie, I'm stronger than you, I'm going to go take your cookie. Okay, or I have something I want you to have. I'm supposed to do the dishes, but I don't want to do the dishes, and mom and dad aren't home, and so you're going to do the dishes, little brother, or I'm going to beat you. These are both this idea of imperialism, of either wanting new raw materials or opening new markets or selling our products to somewhere else. It's very closely associated with industrialism. Industrialism and the growth of our economy is imperative. That's how we're going to get bigger and stronger. We're going to have more money. And countries start competing for these global resources. Everybody around the world wants to have the rubber that you're going to use to make so many products out there, or they're going to want to have the sugar, or they're going to want to have the tobacco, or they're going to want to open up Asia and be able to sell things in Asia. And this is going to be along with the idea of imperialism having, or the idea of opening these markets and having these areas, much like the United States having Hawaii or Puerto Rico or areas over in Asia with the Philippines. Great Britain is going to want this, and Germany is going to look at that and say, I want that. And countries are going to say, our colonies, they are a mark, or they're a something that makes our country look that more prestigious. So colonies around the world and in areas are going to be, if they're threatened, it's a threat to the motherland. So you've got militarism, you've got alliance system, imperialism, and then finally nationalism. Now, nationalism is the last part, but nationalism is something we see on today's field with President Trump. President Trump won a great many conservatives when he came in and used the same idea that was used in World War I. It's the belief that national interests and unity come before global cooperation. President Obama was someone who followed President Bush and appealed to a great many voters out there when he said, you know, what are we doing out there playing the cowboy? What are we doing when we're going into areas of the world and we're insisting that things be run the way we want? That was appealing to a lot of Americans. We had been at war in the Middle East, and he'd say this whole cowboy image has got a lot of Americans killed, and it's cost us a great deal of money. And in 2008 and 2012, there was a lot of Americans that saw that. In 2016, President Trump went 180 degrees the other way, and it was America first, and the interests of America first. No longer are we going to put us as just a member of the global community, but we're going to look out for America's interests first. And by doing that, every country looking out for their interests first, which is normal, then you're going to have a world, according to President Trump, that is one, in our best interest first, not the whole world, but our best interest first. And when we have a stronger nation, we're a stronger world. You can look at it two ways. President Obama has a point when he says, what are we doing in the Middle East and over in Afghanistan? What has it gotten us? How are we going to solve that problem? There's an argument for that. At the same time, you can make the argument for President Trump was saying, oh, the world is a safer place when America leads. And when we haven't led, when we've had our head in the clouds, we've gotten into trouble, i.e. World War II, when we are allowing Germany and Hitler to gain power when we could have stopped it. And so who's right? That's for you to decide. But again, going back to nationalism and the idea that we're going to do what's in our best interests first, that's going to cause a lot of nations around the world to start growing through military, through alliances, through imperialism, to get heightened tensions more and more and more. So what ends up happening? Okay, down in the southern part of the Austrian-Hungary Empire, you have a group of people, a lot of different ethnic people, and one of them are the Serbians, and they want their independence from Austria-Hungary. The Russians, they kind of view themselves, as I mentioned before, a protectorate of the Slavic people, the Serbians. They also, to be honest with you, would really like to have a warm weather port, and that puts them really close, if they can get Serbia, to the Adriatic Sea, and that would be in their best interest if they could get a warm weather port. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Russia is just slightly a cold place, tough to do shipping in a lot of their ports in the wintertime because they all freeze over. There's bad blood that exists between Russia and Austria and Hungary. Okay, and it's over the Serbians or the Czechs or the Poles, and these are all living in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. And so what's going to end up happening is you're going to have, as it usually happens in many instances, you're going to have a small incident get to be where it causes a huge international incident. So let's take a look at this young gentleman, Gavrilo Princip. Gavrilo Princip was a young member of what we call the Black Hand Society. It's a Serbian nationalistic government. Remember the idea of nationalism. The Serbians are wanting to have independence from the Austrian-Hungary Empire. The Austrian-Hungary Empire is not nearly as interested about having Serbian independence. They say, no, we're not giving it to you. Mr. Princip is recruited as an assassin. He's a 19-year-old young man. Mr. Princip is he's one of four guys. They're going to be assigned to kill the Archduke Ferdinand when there's a parade in Sarajevo, which I'll have a map of in just a second. And when the Archduke and his wife are in a parade going along, it's kind of a unique story. Mr. Sarajevo, or Mr. Princip, and his group have got the whole thing planned out of how they're going to ambush the Archduke on his route along the parade. Well, it gets completely fouled up. They completely miss where they think they're going to attack him. They think they've missed their opportunity. Princip is leaving. He actually goes inside of another restaurant, or into a restaurant, excuse me, when all of a sudden, here comes the whole procession of the parade, and sure enough, the Archduke in his car, along with his wife, come right there, and Princip runs out, takes out his trusty .38 revolver, and proceeds to wail away and shoot the Archduke Ferdinand and his wife several times, killing her and killing him. That's going to cause the Austrian Empire to get very upset at the Serbs. Now, when Big Brother gets hit by Little Brother, Big Brother, or I should say Middle Brother, wants to act like the bully against Little Brother. But it's not going to be until the big oldest brother gets involved. So after you have this incident take place, Austria and Hungary are going to send down their military to teach a lesson to these Serbian rebels The Russian Empire is not going to take kindly to that. So as mentioned, Austria and Hungary are going to declare war on the Serbian Empire, a small group of Slavic people on the southern border. They declare war on July 28th of 1914. Russia, who sees itself as a protectorate again of the Serbian people, they are aligned with Serbia. They mobilize its army to fight against Austria and Hungary. Well, now one thing leads to another, and remember when I was talking about those alliances, Germany, who's aligned with Austria and Hungary, says, okay, they declare war on Russia. And there's a long line of history between Germany, Prussia, because that's what Germany used to be, was Prussia, and Russia. There's not a lot of love between the two people. So Germany, who is far advanced with its army compared to Russia, declares war on Russia. Well, Russia has a treaty with Great Britain and France. Once Germany declares war on Russia, Great Britain and France go to the aid of Russia and declare war on Germany and Austria-Hungary. And now we've got ourselves a dandy with a war that's going to start. If you take a look at this, the map here shows you where all the players are. If you take a look at down here at the bottom southern part here, here's where the Serbians are going to make that attack down here in Sarajevo. And as mentioned, let me see if I get that pointer off there. You can see where the Serbian Empire is right there next to the Adriatic Sea. If Russia could somehow get all the way over here and take control of this country, they would give themselves a warm weather port in the Adriatic Sea into the Mediterranean. Ooh, that'd be a good thing for trading purposes. On the other hand, Hungary, Austria and Hungary, they're not so much stoked about that idea. And then you've got Germany right over here. And so on the Eastern Front, Germany will declare war on Russia. Russia will mobilize its army against the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and then you're going to have on the Western Front, Germany's going to get caught, or the Central Powers will get caught in a two-front war with Germany, Italy, and France on the Western side, and Russia on the East side. Those are the major players. So the war is going to start in August of 1914, and we're going to have 6 weeks of basically nothing. It's going to be really, really quiet, and everybody was anticipating this, you know, fast and quick war. Every side felt like they were superior with their military. There were the newspapers that were promoting nationalism and promoting it's going to be an easy victory, and for 6 weeks nothing happens. But after 6 weeks, everybody is kind of moving their forces and gets aligned, and then it's going to hit. And then you're going to see the devastation of what 20th century warfare will look like. And it's like nothing ever seen before. It is the only war that we're ever going to see chemical weapons used. It's the war to, it's the nickname of it is the war to end all wars. It's going to be one that is going to demoralize most of Europe. You're going to see countries like France that lose 4.5 to 5 million people. Russia's entire economy will crumble because of World War I, and they will completely fall apart and drop out, and they will become communist. And Germany will be, of the major powers, lose the fewest amount of people, but because they're on the losing end, they will get the blame for World War I. So here's a quick synopsis of how the war is going to start. And then in our next lecture, we're going to talk about what we've got with the United States entering it, and that'll be in 1917, and we'll start talking and take up from there on. But away we go. World War I has started, and we'll stop for there.